Welcome, I'm Renee. This is a project for St Sidwell's Community Centre and the recipe in this video is pork meatballs in tomato sauce. Take a look here at how it's done. By step, and then I'm going to take you through the method of making everything step by step, so easy to follow along, and hopefully you can make this for yourself at home. So the first we're going to cover is go through the sauce ingredients. I will just run through them for you here. This is for the tomato base sauce that we then add the meatballs into. A tin of tomatoes. I've got plum tomatoes. You could use chopped tomatoes, whatever tin of tomatoes you have is going to work here. So I've got a couple of sticks of celery. You don't always have to add those, it just is nice if you've got some. You can add an onion as well if you've got one of those knocking about. 6 cloves of garlic here, or 4 big fat ones, 4 tablespoons of olive oil. You don't need essential olive oil, just bog standard olive oil. And if you don't have that, you could use vegetable oil, rapeseed oil would still work. Some stock, that just loosens the sauce before you put the meatballs in, because we want to then reduce the sauce down quite a lot and cook out the meatballs for quite a long time. Tomato paste, so that's just a tablespoon of tomato paste, or puree is also fine. This is some red wine. I just had a little bit left in a bottle. I don't always put that in, I'm just putting that in today because I want to use it up. Again, it adds another dimension. It's a little bit more depth to the sauce. And don't worry about the alcohol content if you're feeding this to kids, because it will all be burnt off during the cooking. My kids love this recipe. This is one of our family favourites. I've got some thyme today, so I'm using the thyme, and I've got bay leaves. But the herbs are really flexible. You could use basil stalks, oregano, whatever you had in your cupboard would work. And that's it, I think. Salt and pepper to taste. And now we'll go through the meatball ingredients in the same way, and then we'll make a start on the sauce. All you need: an onion, small onion, finely diced, a couple of tablespoons of red wine vinegar, white wine vinegar, cider vinegar, whatever vinegar you have, a tablespoon or so of dried oregano, and some mild chili flakes, or even a fresh chili if that's what you've got, half teaspoon of salt, and a few grinds of black pepper. And pork mince, the most important ingredient of all. You can also use lamb mince, beef mince. If you wanted it to be veggie, you could use soy mince. If you're using soy mince, I'd suggest putting an egg in there as well. Now we're going to go on to making the sauce, and then we'll come back to the meatballs in a minute. So we get our sauce cooking first, and whilst the sauce is cooking for about 15 minutes, that's just to get the tomatoes fully cooked and not tasting raw. And all I've done here is I've sliced up my celery and peeled my garlic cloves, and then we're going to go over to the pan. The gas is on. I'm going to turn it down to medium and then just pour in all my olive oil. Grate the garlic directly into the pan. You could crush it in, or you can just chop it with a knife. The garlic's in. See, it's just gently sizzling. You don't want your heat very high at this point because it's so easy to burn garlic, and burnt garlic is disgusting and bitter. And this garlic we're using to flavour this oil, and then the oil's gonna go through the whole sauce and recipe, and really this is a good, delicious foundation of flavour we're adding here, so we don't want to mess it up at this stage. And garlic and tomatoes go so well. And then we're going to add in the celery. So that's just a couple of sticks that I finely chopped. Try not to chuck it all over the shop. Maybe you're a bit of a tidier cook than me. If so, well done. So we just want to get those softened 2-3 minutes on a medium-low heat, and then we can also add in the thyme and the bay leaves. So we just let that gently sizzle for a minute or two. And I'm going to add in my tin of tomatoes. In that goes. Whole lot. So I've got plum tomatoes here. So if you're using plum tomatoes, just break them up gently with the spoon and let that come back up to temperature now. Again, try not to slop it everywhere. It does help with the cleaning up after if you keep it all in the pan. So we're going to cook that sauce down, get it really nice and reduced, and stop that kind of raw tin tomato flavour. Once that's cooked down for 15 minutes, we're going to add our meatballs to it. But before that, we're going to add a little bit of salt. So it's bubbling. We're going to add some pepper. I'm going to throw in my wine now. See, the sauce is bubbling quite a lot. I want the wine to cook off. So we're cooking out the wine. I'm getting a really gorgeous smell now. of kind of garlic and wine and tomatoes. And then we're going to add in the tablespoon of tomato puree, like that. And just stir that through. And then let this cook for about 15 minutes. We make the meatballs. So just to recap, this is the pork mince, the onions, the herbs and the salt and pepper, and then a little bit of stock. I've pre-chopped the onions, so that's going in. I'm just going to add all of this. So the oregano, the chili flakes, the salt and pepper, straight in. And then this is optional, you don't need to do it. I've just got into the habit of doing it. You just add a couple of tablespoons of stock, and that just helps to stop the meatballs kind of going hard and tight. And then with clean hands, we're just going to get involved. We're going to give it a good old scrunch and just give it a good old squeege. We also are going to add some red wine vinegar. And that just helps to cut through the fattiness. Pork is quite fatty. The vinegar just offsets that. And we add that in. And that's just a tablespoon or so. And mix that through. And you can see that it'll be really easy to form into meatballs. So meatball mix has been mixed. We've put everything we want to into it. And what we do now is we just make the little balls. And this is all while the sauce is cooking. So we take a kind of golf ball sized piece in your hand. And we're just going to squeeze it and then roll it. I mean, these can be... So there's all the meatballs from a 500 grams of pork. So I've got 14. And if there's just a couple of you eating, then you can just cook off the amount you need. So I'd say like 3-4 meatballs per person, depending how hungry you are. And then freeze these as they are. So freeze them flat on a tray in the freezer. Once they're frozen, you can put them in a bag and then just take them out whenever you want to use them. I usually do a whole batch and then have loads of leftovers the next day. We have these meatballs and sauce, like a tortilla wrap, and add cheese and have that for lunch. It's actually even better the next day. So now we're back on our sauce. So this is our reduced tomato sauce. Cooked it out for about 15 minutes and there's much less liquid there now. And if you taste it, it should taste nice. It shouldn't taste raw. You shouldn't taste raw alcohol in there. Add the stock. So that all goes in. And I'm going to take, because I've got quite woody thyme, I'm going to take out the stalks now to make way for the meatballs. So take those out and then just gently place your meatballs in. Straight into the sauce, uncooked, gently. Don't be tempted to start moving them around straight away. So they need to form a kind of cooked skin on the outside, otherwise they will fall apart and you'll end up with a kind of spaghetti bolognese. Dot them all around. Budge up. Make room. And then these meatballs will add loads of flavour to this already pretty nice sauce. And there you go. So I'm just going to turn the heat up now because I had it really low. My tomato sauce was simmering. And then we place a lid on and cook those out for 45 minutes, an hour on a low simmer once they've kind of got cooked through and sealed. So after about 5 to 10 minutes, this is what you get. So can you see they've changed colour? And when I touch them, they're slightly firmer. So I'm just going to move them around now. I want every side to get coated in the sauce. So just gently, without breaking them up. They should be a bit more sturdy now to move. And we'll just kind of mix. See, the sauce has got a lot looser. So just do that for all of them. Keep them on a low simmer. Mine's on the lowest heat now. And keep a lid on them for another 20-25 minutes. And then the last half an hour, 25 minutes, you take the lid off and let the sauce reduce a bit. Reducing is just when you burn off all the kind of excess water in a dish. And the more water there is, the more diluted the flavour's going to be. So see you in half an hour. So after half an hour, take the lid off the meatballs. Leave the lid off now and let the sauce thicken. Once the sauce has thickened up nicely, serve with spaghetti. Thank you for watching this video. See you next time.